thousand like 2,000 like video
Right.
whatever watches, and like I don't know, when you post it in the next 24 hours, the comments are aggressive. Like someone is going to say something, like
Yeah.
super offensive for no reasons. Like this video
Right.
wasn't even that, bro. What, like, where did you come from? And so once I experienced that, I was like, ooh, okay.
Dude, and like social media and like I mean just living online, dude, is just changed. Like we were having this conversation
Mm-hmm.
um earlier today actually. Is like, we act like you have to go viral or something to be like famous. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, like well, then how are people like popular before social media? Right? There's
Right.
two ways for it to work. And not that being famous is what it's all about, but I'm just saying, like, we forget that like we didn't need the internet and all these different platforms to like break stuff and to make an impact and connect with people before. It was
Right.
just
And,
I,
and
I don't know, man.
but you also didn't have comments, right? Like back then,
Right.
if you picked up Steam, usually it's like word of mouth. No one's gonna like you didn't have a place to leave nasty comments. Now it's like anybody, the moment anything goes viral, at least scan the comments is you have five positive and then three people that are gonna say
Mhm.
they want to like find you. And
And then like
matter of fact,
and then
matter
like
of
20
fact,
and then like 20 bots, 20
yeah,
bots.
yeah, and then they're like 30 bots. There's actually
Or-
more bots,
right?
but I have a story for you guys. I can't wait till Swiss. I gotta tell you, this is real life happened to me. Like after talking to somebody on
Yeah.
Twitter, I was like, no way, people really do this.
Well,
You-
I think we need to hear that in a second. So,
Oh, I got a
hey,
story for y'all.
yeah, we're gonna hear that in just a second. Speaking of comments, man, what is good? Is it good to be alive on a Monday night? We are back. It
Ooh.
is 520 Collective, 520 IXC. Y'all know what it is, indie Christian culture. And if you're hanging out with us in the chat, and I see some people are already here, man. So make sure you leave a comment, man. Let us know you're here. Let us know where you're at. We want to shout you out. We want to get you in the conversation, man. So make sure you say a little something in the chat for us, okay? But yeah, man, it's 520 IXC. Eric Boston, you already know, man. You can hit me up if you want to on X. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I've been kind of not on X and stuff as much. Like I found myself like kind of dialing it back over the summer, man, and maybe it's not that bad of a thing either. But
You're
if
not
you
you're not
like,
missing anything.
if you DM me though, I mean, I should get like a notification or something. So
Mm.
you can DM me if you really want to. You probably don't, which is, it's cool. It's fine. It is what it is, man. Man, we're gonna be joined by Big Swiss here in just a bit. He had something happen right before we go live that he had to kind of take care of, so he'll be back soon. But we got Frenchie here, man.
Let's
Frenchie, what's up?
go. Always a pleasure to join 520 Collective on a Monday night. Matter of fact, I was just hopping out the shower and sorry for the imagery, but wife was like what are you doing? Because I'm getting like dressed real fast. And I was like, I gotta get on 520. She's like, "Ah, okay, busy bee." I'm like, that's right, babe. I gotta get on. I
we got
gotta
time.
get on.
We got hey,
Mhm.
invite her on sometime, man. It's fine. She
You
can
know,
be on.
we yeah, she's with child. Those
Oh yeah, yeah.
moods are like when close your eyes, throw a dart, baby. You land on a decent mood on a Tuesday, but listen, it's not easy carrying a baby, so
Right.
we gotta show some grace. But yeah, hopefully, she'll pop in. I think Lex is hilarious,
Oh yeah, man.
naturally.
That'd be cool. We'd love to have it.
But
That way
yeah,
she can feel the chat.
always a pleasure. Join the gang, and today's topic obviously is gonna be it's gonna be a
Yeah,
tough
man.
one. It's a
We have some
tough
stuff
one.
got some stuff to say, but before we get into it too, hey, man, I do want to hear your story before we jump into it. But let me ask you a question though.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you heard this or not, but did you hear that Hawaii has made it illegal to like laugh real loud in public?
I don't know why instantly I almost wanted to laugh out loud. That was crazy how that made me want to do it. Who's gonna police it, and how do you police it, and what's the decibel level? Because being in sound engineer, I'm thinking they're gonna have to figure out some kind of uh, range to capture the decibels in order to be. Yeah, that was too loud. Okay,
Well,
Eric, that was way too loud. That's $500. Fine.
Dude, I don't know all the like technical side of it, but the one thing I do know is you're only allowed a aloha.
You're only allowed a I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Aloha. Oh
Aloha.
gosh, that was good.
So,
That was
but
good.
let's hear your story. What happened? Did you say it was like on X or where was it? It was in the
So
comments on something.
right, okay. So I mean, honestly, with my channel being called Locked In Christians, I'm pretty much setting myself up. Any comment you leave on Twitter, if it was just locked in, people be like, whatever. But I kept the Christian on it on purpose. So having that as a background, every time I get into, some of these debates, because some people just want to argue on Twitter, which is fine, but sometimes, you're arguing with a bot and you can kind of tell the responses are weird. But then sometimes there's a human, but he sounds like a bot. And this is what happened to me a few days ago. And I'm sitting there like, this person's like, it's like very aggressive in their tone and, how they're writing. And I'm just like, being biblical, being kind and trying not to, like I'm not agitating. I'm just having a conversation. You wanted to have a debate and I'm going to tell you, you're asking for my opinion. So I'm going to tell you. But then all of a sudden, like the person, like, stops replying. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And next thing you know, probably like 30, 45 minutes later, there's like a doorbell at my door where I'm like, no one should be here. Like, like everyone's out of town, whatever. And it's just me, wife's out of town. And I'm like, I go check the window, police officer. Okay. Police officer parked the car, obviously at the door. So now I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Cool. So I go downstairs. She rings the doorbell again. It's a female officer. I open the door and I'm like puzzled at this point because I'm like, who called the police? There's nothing going on. It's quiet. I've been working. And she's like, someone called from this address about a slashed tire. I was like, slashed tire? It's like, I didn't call anybody, right? It's like, why would I call for anything? And I'm like, and I'm thinking in my head immediately, I was like, is my tire slashed? But, when the officer gets in your face, you're kind of just like, oh, like, you're kind of like, you're a little tense because you don't know what the call was about. But she's like, oh, someone called for a slashed tire. And I was like, slashed tire? No, it was my tire. And I'm like, and I know she walked by my car in the driveway as she's coming in. So she clearly didn't see any slashed tires. But then I'm like, what? Like, she's like, yeah, someone called for this address, says my address, and like there's a slashed tire. I was like, I didn't call and there's no slashed tire. And she's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm sure. And she just said, okay, cool. She leaves. And I close the door. I'm like, oh, I know what just happened. Like, it's called doxing. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but people actually do that online. And I seen it.
Find out where you are and do something.
Yeah. Well, because it's not hard to find. Like, if you know what I mean, like I'm not hiding anything, right? It's not hard to find like, home purchases. You can find anyone's address for $30 on one of those little find me thingies. So I think this person literally like is probably one of those raging, angry liberals that are just angry every day. Like, I think this person found out my address, made a fake call. And I don't know how you do a fake call. Like, and do you do it based on that person's phone number? It's so, you know what I mean? Like, I still don't know like the logistics of it, but somehow that person was able to call the police. Yeah, but I've seen it done to other like content creators, but they have like big channels. I'm like, bro, my channel is not big at all.
I don't know if you've ever watched like Tim Pool's show, like
yeah, I've seen he talk about it too.
Yeah, he talks all the time about they've been swatted like countless times.
That's what it's called. Yeah, swatted.
Yeah.
All of them. I've seen so many. Like all of them. Like, honestly, if you have any kind of traction on Twitter, it's probably happened to you. But I was just like shocked because I'm like, my channel is not that big. But I was like the last person I was like he was very aggressive in his tone, and then he just stopped. Next thing you know, 30 minutes later, this happens. I was like, oh my gosh, like this person really did it,
But
because
dude,
it didn't make any sense.
like how bored do you have to be to do that kind of stuff?
Super bored, bro. Like,
and apparently you're much smarter than I am, because I don't know. I don't have the time to figure this stuff out.
bro, like it's not even boredom. It's like they do it to obviously instill some type of fear. It's like, we know where you stay. Like we're calling the cops. Like, I don't even know what that does, but it's still, it's like, it just means that they're trying to tell you they have access. But I was like, I am not that type of influencer
So
anyway.
like, do you think they were like? Did it feel like initially, like in the exchange that you were having before that, like, were they coming at you because of you having Christian in there?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they just assume, you're coming from a biblical perspective. It was honestly, matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up, because the exchange the exchange didn't even make sense to be that angry about it. But the fact that
That's wild, man.
it was, you know what it was? It was a sports clip. It was a sports clip. Let me see if I can find it, but I'm look for it in just a second. And yeah, so it was a simple, like a family friendly sports clip, I think. And you know what it was? Someone I think it was a baseball player, but his wife was singing the national anthem. I don't know if you saw that. It was kind of trending.
Oh
On
yeah,
Twitter.
yeah.
She was singing
Francisco
it.
Lindor.
Yeah,
Francisco Lindor
she
with
did
the
it with was
violin.
it violin? Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So underneath that comment, and he was like, he had the kids. He was like smiling. I think he cried or something. I was like, man, look at the joy you get. And my comment was literally like, hey, if you like, get you a family, like get married, get a family, like, trust me, it's like the best. That was my comment, super positive. Like, and then this person was like, don't tell anybody how to live. No one wants to live in your views, how you view, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what do you mean, bro? I was like, I was like, you're doing exactly what you just told me to stop doing. And I was like, it's complete option. I was like, people live how they want to live regardless of what I say. And so then, like, you just got more aggressive.
Yeah.
And I was like, bingo, it's that guy. It's
Right.
definitely that guy. Way too aggressive. But
Man,
yeah.
hey, shout out. That's not Christian. They are in the chat hanging out with us. What up, Jimmy?
Wagwan, brethren. Wagwan.
Dude, hey Jimmy, you got to get on the show, man. You got to get, like, I don't know what you're doing in the comments, man. We need you on here talking with us, dude. Like, I mean, we appreciate the comments. We appreciate you hanging out, but dude, we want to see your beautiful face on here, man. Let me know. I can drop you that link real quick. You know what I'm saying? Uh-oh. And Frenchie, his camera went off. Frenchie, don't do this to me. There he is.
I'm here. I'm here.
I was like, don't leave me for long.
I can feel the heart rate.
Woo!
The heart rate was slowly rising. Your Apple Watch was going off.
Well, I don't have an Apple.
Your Apple Watch was calling the cops.
Dude,
they have that
Android,
feature.
Android.
Oh, there you go. Green text, baby. Green text.
So
ruins the group chat.com.
Oh man, but we back. Yeah, but no, hey, we were off last week. And honestly, like we were kind of talking about this before we went live, is I'm kind of glad we were, to be honest with you, because
it's a good week to be off.
I mean, obviously just a handful of days before that, we had a lot of stuff went down, and like, here's the thing, dude. Like, I know I've said it before, but so I'm a high school teacher, and one of the classes I teach is government.
Ooh.
Right. And so that prior week was already going to be tough because we had September 11th, right? And that's always, a day filled with a lot of different emotions anyway, right? Where we're trying to make sure that these young people understand, what that day entailed, because obviously they weren't around for it, right? And then you've got a bunch of stuff that happens now, like whether it's memes or these conspiracy theories about it that they're bringing up, and you're trying to say, hey, but I need you to know what it was like actually going through this, right? And so, and I feel like it's kind of our job to pass that along, because I was like, it's one of those watershed moments, right, where when you experience something like that, you remember the rest of your life exactly where you were, what you were doing, And I was in my second year in college, and I was going to my on-campus job, and I can still remember it clear as day. You know what I'm saying? So we had that. We had that right that we were going to have to talk about on that Thursday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on Wednesday the 10th, um, about an hour before school was wrapping up,
Right.
I get this message from my wife. Hey, Charlie Kirk's been shot.
Mm.
And I'm like, what? So then, it's one of those things where you're trying to wrap up the school day, but you also are trying to find out what's going on because, um, you know, it was a big deal. And I think, especially in the moment, it's hard to realize exactly how much of a big deal it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why I, part of why I was saying I'm kind of glad we weren't on last week because, man, there was a lot of kind of processing that had to happen, right? But on top of that, like I said, so now you had September 11th, and then feeling like me and the other government teacher, we were on the phone that night talking to each other. Okay, like, hey, we got to address this tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What should that look like? What should we be thinking about? And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. That Thursday, I mean, there was a lot of really good and important conversations that happened
Yeah.
on that day, but it was also very draining. That
Mm.
Thursday, like by the time we wrapped up and you've gone through 7 hours of talking about not only one but two very tragic, like I said, watershed type moments. And that was the thing
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to stress to those kids, like, man, you guys may not realize this right now, but I think this is going to go down as one of those things where you're always going to remember it. Like, I mean, history is going to tell us, but I think this is what history is going to end up saying in the end. It's a
I
big,
hundred
big
percent agree
deal,
with that. I didn't even see I didn't even know the impact of Charlie Kirk's ministry until because it was also my wife who sent me the text. Like I was working, but I wasn't really paying attention. I know something, looked like Twitter was moving around, but Twitter does it all the time if you sneeze and you happen to be Republican. But if I saw a lot of movement, and then my wife texts me. And if my wife texts me something that happened on Twitter that I'm late to, right, and I know it's a big deal, but I didn't realize the impact of his ministry was really with that Gen Z. Like I was just
Oh yeah,
speaking to
yeah.
another Gen Z kid, and he was telling me how much like that event literally like changed his whole like outlook and
Well,
like his
I mean, like,
motivation.
love them or hate them or
Right.
whatever your feelings was. And I'm not here to try to change your feelings about Charlie Kirk or, um, convince you one thing or another. Like that's not my job, right? But one thing that is like impossible to argue. There's a few things, but I'll say this just based on what you were saying. One thing that's impossible to argue is that he I don't think it's even close. He had the biggest impact on young people when it comes to getting them involved and getting them to care about what's happening with
Mm-hmm.
politics in this country and what the responsibility of a good citizen in America entails.
Mm-hmm.
Like he got more, not only with what he was doing with these events going to college campuses with Turning Point USA, but like America Fest, where young people were coming in and they were working with them directly, to build those insights and that knowledge base. So yeah, man, I don't know, dude. And then like you said, you got all this. This is another thing that's probably not good about social media because like,
Mm.
so I went on whenever there was a break in between classes, I went on real quick to see what I could find, and like I was on X kind of looking, and the first video I saw was like the video that was like further away, like the dude was standing up at the back and kind of
Yep.
and
At the
stuff. And
hill.
like,
Yep.
yeah, you could see what was happening, but it wasn't like super
Wasn't
detailed,
obvious.
right?
Yep.
And then so I went and talked to my one of my best friends who teaches around the corner from me. I was like, dude, did you hear this? He's like, no. And I'm like, oh, dude, we're just kind of talking and then having to go back to class and stuff. And then I got to my plan period because it's like at the end of the day. And so I was trying to get some updates, like, okay, what's the news? What or what's happening with this? How is he? That type of deal.
Right.
And I'm sitting there scrolling, looking for updates. And dude, I saw one of the up close videos and I'm like, I wish I hadn't seen that
Mhm.
at all.
Me neither.
It was terrible. And I went to him and my dude. I'm like, I don't know. I was like, if Charlie survives this, it's an absolute miracle. And he's like, for real? I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't know if you want to see this other video, but I was like, it's bad.
Yeah, it was some nasty work for
Yeah.
sure.
So, but dude, yeah, like, so, and then obviously, like we said, we were off last week, and I think it was a good thing because it gave us some chance to kind of process and think about stuff. Because, I think the obvious thing is it's easy to talk about this event through the lens of politics, right? I think the average person, meaning to me, like someone who would not identify themselves as a Christian, right? Because that's something we've talked about over this past year on the show. Is like for the first time ever, the country has under 50% of the population that identify as Christians.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of take that into account, right? Where, okay, how are most people going to view it? How are most people going to probably know him? And I think most people connect Charlie Kirk with politics and the conservative movement before necessarily thinking about him through that lens of his faith and being a Christian. Um, so I think, obviously we're going to address that, but I think it's important for us, and what we get to do here on the show
Yeah.
is also take a look through not only that Christian lens, but kind of really take a moment, pause, and look at, okay, what does this mean for Christian culture? And I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. Like, there's some things that I've seen over the past week and a half, um, that I think has been good, and also some things that maybe I have a little bit of questions about.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
so I don't want to just talk about me. Like let's start with you, Frenchie, man. Like talk about. I mean, or if you have like anything specific you want to bring up with this whole situation, let's jump in there. Or if you just want to like
I
talk about your experience with what happened.
the first thing I thought about was was in Matthew 24, and I don't know why my mind just went to here, and like in Matthew 24 verse 9 says Jesus was talking to the disciples when they asked him about the end times, and he says in verse 9, then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And I don't know why that verse just kind of stood out to me in that moment, because that's clearly someone hating that person because he represented Christ. Is because of what he represented, not who he was. Is literally what he was represent. If Charlie Kirk was Muslim, I doubt that happens to him in that manner, right? Because like it's really the name of Jesus that he was proclaiming, and he proclaimed it a lot. I don't even think he missed a chance, right? Anytime he was on video, from all of the interviews and stuff that I've seen, like he's literally I mean, he's saying Jesus Christ, and he's talking about the gospel straight up. And but the next part after that verse in Matthew 24 and verse 9, um, this kind of like is what I started to see on Twitter, right? There's like Christians arguing with each other. Like Candace Owens, for example, very popular podcaster. And but she's Catholic, where she's converted. She went from Protestant to Catholicism. Um, and I think the next part of that verse is so interesting. Like, why did Jesus state it this way, right? Why did he state it in this order? Because the next verse, it says, then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another, right? And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And I'm like, no way this playbook is happening live right now, right? We have a Christian martyr happen live on TV, where we can see it, and immediately it causes some Christians to panic, some Christians to fall away, some Christians to hide, and then this opens his door, because at this very same time that weekend we had some of the highest church attendance at our church. Like it was packed. There was no seat on all three services, and we have like many campuses, our church, and every church was packed. that very weekend. I mean, they're saying numbers look like Easter, and people people show up to church on Easter because you got those holiday Christians, they call them, that show up to all the to all the big holidays to church. So the numbers at churches grew like crazy that weekend. And then even now there's like more Bible purchases, there's people reading the Bible. I mean, my brother, this is even hit my personal family. My brother, I was talking to him the other day. He's like, "Yeah, finally, man, I started reading the Word again." I mean, I'm like, "Amen to that." But I was like, it's all happening. And I'm like, wait a minute, but we have to be very careful because, when people are rushing into something because of something else, right? They're easily, right? They're in this like mental state where if anybody just pops up to like lead and says anything in leadership, whatever, you could create false prophets really quickly, right? Just from this event alone could create some false prophets. It could make some people fall away in the church. And I mean, literally Matthew 24 playing out live in front of us. Like, and I know a lot of people don't like to, take the biblical approach to everything, even though I completely disagree with that. I think we should always, as Christians, take the biblical approach to everything. I mean, literally everything, including marriage, friendships, all that, because God's design was for these things to be, the way He designed it. And I think it's important that we do acknowledge the spiritual aspect of this because the trickle down effect is we're going to have more believers, we're going to have more people coming over to the faith, but also we're going to have the opportunity for all these false prophets, because if Jesus says false prophets are coming, you can see how they're going to be coming. You can see the groundworks being laid right now. With events like this, it's gonna, arise. Someone else is gonna come out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna let this happen, blah blah blah. And then people are look to something to cling to immediately. And if you're gonna run to the church, and the church is gonna have this person that may not be, like sticking to the scriptures, or just twisting it just a little bit to where it's not even noticeable. Like, what's for them? Like, who's to know if if you just ran into the church for like safety, to it's like, wow, I need to go into the church. Like, who's to know what you are going to be walking into? And I do pray, that not that many, but Jesus says many will lead us, will fall astray. It's like, it's just going to happen. And I think events like this is one of the catalysts for some of these prophecies that Jesus says is going to happen. That's
So something, one of the things you mentioned here, man, is one of the kind of questions I had, right? And it's more just something that I wanted to explore a little bit, and something I got to thinking about, because we talked, we have placed, or a lot of people have placed Charlie Kirk under this um, label of Christian martyr. And I do think he was a martyr. I do think he died for his beliefs and for his convictions, right?
Mhm.
I think, I wonder if there's something that we need to kind of be a little careful with on here, though, because my question is, did that young man pull that trigger because Charlie Kirk was a Christian? Or does the information that we have, at least at this point, tell us that it was more about the political side of things? Which I get it, his faith and his beliefs impacted. Like Charlie Kirk was a man who had it the right way, right, where his spiritual beliefs impacted his political beliefs. It wasn't like opposite there,
Mhm.
right? Like it is for some people. And I think the information that it's been given to us right now is that, one, this young man, this shooter, had been very radicalized and had been like thrown himself real heavy into politics, right? And had some very strong disagreements with Charlie Kirk in that arena, right?
Right.
Of thought. Um, so, do you think we need to be careful labeling it that he was martyred because of his faith? Because
Mm.
I think there's a difference here, right? Like if he came out and just said, "Hey, yo, I just shot him because he's a Christian and I don't like that," then you're talking about a whole nother thing for the body and America to be truly concerned about, right? Because that opens a
Mhm.
whole new can of worms here where, all right, is it open season on Christians in general? You're right, or
Mm,
like you said, because now you got people whose faith is shaken, and that wasn't even necessarily the message that we've been given yet, that he was killed because of being a Christ follower. And maybe at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It was something that I've been thinking about, and I was hoping that we could kind of get into a little bit. Was, does it make a difference if it was truly, which by all accounts, the information that's out there at this point points to, of this was a disagreement on politics as opposed to
mm.
a issue of faith.
That's a fair question, EB, and we do have to be careful, but I think on both sides of that question, because the arguments and the bickering is, everyone's going to find a claim to this tragedy, right? You're going to have the real political, like, Republicans are going to use the tragedies like, hey, this person was murdered because they were Republican and they had this belief. And then you're gonna have the Christians on this side. Nah, he was murdered because of his faith. And then you might just have, other people. He was murdered because he was white. He was murdered because he had a family. Everyone has their own little camp. But ultimately, I think it goes down to the man's words himself. And that's why I think it's important that we always, like, you take in the person, based on what they say. Because I had a quote, when I was young. I said, when somebody tell you who they are, believe them. Right? When somebody shows you who they are, one of those, believe them. And so the more I see that he actually wasn't just, lighthearted Christianity, just mentioning, oh yeah, Jesus is cool for everybody, whatever. He was saying the offensive stuff, which is the gospel. If you if you preach the gospel to anyone, they're either gonna get closer to Christ, or they're gonna be instantly offended and go further away from Christ. Only one of those two things will happen. So eventually, he used the Bible as his backup for his arguments, because I think, this goes back into
Yeah, that's true. That's
that
true.
kind of, the community, one of those LGBT community. I'm sure, something in the news has been leading towards that. Again, I'm speculating. I'm not sure of all the facts and everything, but I can always assume that if it's anything in that community, they are already against, the Bible. It's almost like a bonus that he was Christian. You know what I mean? Because just
Right.
being, standing up for wanting family. Yeah, yeah, exactly. His faith influenced that. And I think, and I don't know if he was like, I'm like Republican first, like MAGA first, or I'm like believer first. Because I feel like it was more believer
Yeah,
first
and I think that's
before.
fair. And I think that's fair.
And right.
I mean, I want people to know, man, that, not only with this question, like any question I may bring up tonight, I think hopefully most of you that have rocked with us for a long time and have watched the shows and been part of these conversations know that I really try to be as level headed as possible and consider different angles to stuff so that we can have this conversation and
Hmm.
just and not have like one bias to it. And that's part of why I'm also glad we didn't do this show last week, because at the time I had too many feelings going on. Like, if I wanted to be completely honest with you guys, I mean, I was feeling frustrated, I was feeling disappointed, I was pissed off, I was sad, like all these different things, man. And if we had jumped in right away, I don't know that I could have attempted to try to bring a kind of level-headed, let's consider the different aspects that could be at play here type of approach to it, right?
Right.
Let's see what Jay say. Jimmy says he preached Jesus at these events. That's something that Ben Shapiro will never do, even if he carries the torch for turning.
Right.
Exactly, and he did. And here's the thing, man. I know Shapiro has said that wants to kind of step in. I think there's several people, man, that are kind of doing this. I mean, we've seen Brandon Tatum be involved with Turning Point USA, um, and I'm interested to see how much he steps up. It is going to be something different where if you get people that maybe are not necessarily Christians that pick up the torch on what that's going to look like moving forward. But I mean, you've had guys like, we talked about Tim Pool a little bit ago. Tim Pool was saying that he was hoping to get into doing these type of events and stuff as well. And so I think, and again, that's where you got to ask yourself, okay, where is the line between political affiliations and religious, your religious devotion? Where is that line between the two? Because while we talk about someone like a Ben Shapiro or a Tim Pool, who we know at the very least is not a proclaiming Christian, right?
Right.
They are some of the biggest figures in that conservative movement at this point,
Mm.
though.
Yes.
And so I don't know. So um, is it about the gospel, or is it about um, defending the foundations of America? I mean,
Mm.
that's kind of I think the question
Right.
you're asking. It'll be interesting to see, because I mean, uh, his wife has already been voted in as the new head of Turning Point USA, and so I think that she is already, I don't know if you saw the live stream. I didn't watch the whole thing or anything like that, but I saw
Yeah, I
just
did it
the
live. It was
video.
a Friday. It was on Friday, so it was actually right during the live. So we just switched the whole show around and showed that and talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. And I think she's already shown that I think she'll continue in the footsteps of Charlie and what he did there, as far as making sure people know his reasons for his political beliefs and that they are founded in biblical truths and standards, right?
Mm. I mean, the uprising on the youth and just the growth in the gospel and just the spread again of Christianity is that's one of the most positive things that unfortunately came from this tragedy because it's like if you were trying to suppress the Christian movement, if you were trying to suppress, people being family oriented and standing on some values, you've done the opposite because now people are looking into family values. People are flooding into the churches, but that does present a different challenge for the church, as Jesus himself said, will become a challenge for us, but eventually you've probably woken up this Gen Z generation that was quite literally the smallest church generation for a while, but now it looks like they're going to be putting up some serious numbers,
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
and
and
that's
here's
exciting stuff. Yeah.
what's interesting. I mean, obviously, we don't know the full fallout, and it'll take a little bit to know that, but I think what we're going to see is we're going to have a lot of people that just liked what, a lot of young people that
Mm.
really liked and appreciated, was behind what Charlie did with Turning Point and with America Fest, etc., that are going to go hard from a political stance
Hmm.
after this. My hope is that it also helped open up some eyeballs of Christians, in this Christian culture in America, to really kind of evaluate where they stand from as far as their faith goes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
how bold are you willing to be here? Because he was pretty bold. It's one thing to share stuff to social media, which I've seen a million and one things, and there's one specific thing I'd love to talk about here in just a second. But it's easy to share stuff, to our
Yeah.
timelines and to our feeds and all this stuff. Um, what do you do when you are face to face with somebody?
Mm.
Can you have a conversation where you keep yourself in check and respect the other person even if they disagree with you? You know what I'm saying?
Right. But we know the people that are not capable of just having a conversation. We know who they are, and they have a certain look. They have a certain,
Well, but there, no,
style.
but there's Christians who, or
They
there's professing Christians
Yes, but
that can't do that.
it's the same exact thing though. It's the same blueprint. Doesn't even matter. Like I've seen Christians that are, in the I would call, the raging
Right.
liberal area. And I think that's interesting as a Christian. And I actually did this story on my I actually did this story on my channel last weekend, but I talked about one of the Christian artists. I can't remember his name, but he lost like 30K followers because of his support for Charlie Kirk. And there's a video that came out of Charlie Kirk supporting his blue hairs can't have combos. Facts. But he came out in support, and there's a video of Charlie Kirk praising his music ministry and everything. I can't believe his name is slipping my mind. But anyway, he's pretty big. Like he's got a pretty big song out. So white dude's got like a little half mully looking thing. But anyway,
I feel
but
like
he
you're talking about.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But he lost 30K followers, like literally 30,000 saw like just drop out of his Instagram. And I was like thinking to myself, I was like, okay, so were those people actual Christians that were following him for his music, or were those people that just following him for his music, but they were hoping he stays, neutral politically or something? Like I don't understand
Well,
how
I
30,000 people, right, can vanish if you were following a Christian artist. Like, would you expect
well,
a Christian artist to react like to a
I think my question would be more of a not centered around those people who unfollowed him, but like, okay, what's that do to him? Does he try to, does he backtrack in some sort of way to try to get them back, or do you stand
no,
solid?
he stood on it. He stood
Yeah,
on he stood on 10 toes.
because at the end of the day, do you say it doesn't freaking matter how many people are following me on
Mhm.
these social medias? Like, there's a bigger calling, and that's the thing right there, dude. Is like you got some people who aren't comfortable, and
Right.
so therefore they shy away and they stay out of conversations. Like, but that's not what we're called to be either as believers, right?
Mm-mm.
We're not
You have to
to
put a
be
defense. You have to be prepared to
yeah,
defend the hope that's in you.
yeah, be defenders of the faith, right?
Yep.
So but so let me tell okay, so let's get into to this here, man, that I've seen too. My hope and message, I think, to Christian culture is
Mm.
it's okay to be sad and to grieve and to uh keep a memory alive, right? But let's make sure we're not crossing the line here, because one thing that I've seen that has raised my eyebrows a little bit, dude, is like, okay, what kind of pedestal, what kind of idol is Charlie being put up against? Like, I've seen some people that posted here, and I can pull it up exactly, because I know I've seen this post more than once here. But they were talking about, and you may have saw it too. Like, I saw it on Facebook a lot, where let me get it right here for you. So the post says Charlie Kirk died at 12:23, and then they quote John 12:23. And it says, Jesus replied, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." I'm like, we gotta be careful
Yeah, they gotta
saying,
chill.
like trying to compare Charlie to
For real.
Christ. Like, and that's the thing. Charlie would be like, "Yo, don't be putting me on that same level."
You gotta chill. Yeah,
Uh,
there's I think there's again, and I think Matthew 24 is covering all of this because out of a tragedy, right? Someone is going to try to take advantage of it. Christian, non-Christian, doesn't matter. Someone is going to take advantage of the tragedy. I already know there's people with crazy thumbnails just to get more clicks and
right,
more views, talking about this topic, trying to make money from this topic, which it all feels wrong. But, if you're having a conversation and your channel's monetized, sometimes it just is what it is, and I get
yeah,
it. But we know because of this situation that a lot of things are going to arise from it. And the one we have to be most careful of for us is the church. Like, what's going to come out of it? Like, there's going to be some separation in the church, because I can almost guarantee there's probably like some churches right now are thinking about how they can separate themselves from politics, right? They're gonna, like, we're gonna try to like pull away from politics. We don't even want to mess with none of that stuff if it's gonna get like this, because there's already been tragedies, within the church, people going into the church and, firing off guns. And I know for me specifically in the Congo, just recently, someone wanted to kill 80 people in the church, right? So like these guys, these like terrorist people, whatever, and they've gone in there and killed like 80 people in the Christian
yeah.
church. So it's like these are things that we have to prepare for, but there's going to be
Well, and
a
do
consequence there's going to be a consequence in the church, both positive and negative. Some
Well,
churches is going to do things that are going to actually hurt them later on in the future.
well, and here's some here's some stuff along that line. We talk about consequences stuff, and I want to. I'm really interested to know what you think, man, and people that's hanging out with us in chat. What you think is I've seen several videos of people who, um, I mean, you literally made content out of this. Who went to church that Sunday,
Mhm.
and if the pastor didn't start talking about Charlie Kirk, they walked out and said, "I'm not coming back." Like,
Mhm.
what do you think about that, man? Is that something that, like, do you feel like pastors had to talk about this situation, or do you feel like it was something that they could talk about? And what I mean, like, for me, I feel like if a pastor is truly in touch with his congregation, right, and he knows the things that they need to have addressed, like maybe there's some congregations that wasn't the conversation, at least right now, that they needed to have. But there might be some that, yeah, we need you to talk about this because we're trying to figure this out. We're trying to
Right.
make our way through this. What do you think, man? Like, do you think it was an appropriate response by people like, hey, if your pastor doesn't talk about Charlie Kirk this Sunday, leave that church?
Mm. I think that's super interesting, EB, because our pastor at Family Church, immediately that same day when the tragedy happened, just literally at the end of the night, like around 8 or 9, my wife was on our uh, face the church's Facebook or Instagram, whatever account, and he's already popped in like a video. He's explaining the tragedy or what happened because he was very fond of Charlie Kirk, our pastor, and he obviously brought the Bible into it, and talks about the things that we should expect, and he kind of attacked it early, right? He didn't wait until Sunday and plan this whole talk. He was like, let me just attack them, because I think the shepherd, or if you're shepherding a church, you got to know your sheep. If like kind of how you mentioned it, if you know your congregation, you know the sheep you are leading, then you know when to send a message or when to not have to address a message. And the fact that he addressed this so quickly, and it went all through all of our church campuses immediately that same night. He's like, okay, I'm not gonna wait and let it build up and create that little tension that some people showed up on Sunday hoping, like, if this conversation doesn't happen, I'm gonna walk out. It's like, if you attack it early, then it's kind of already been addressed, right? Then it really doesn't have to be addressed on that Sunday. On the Sunday, you can, continue as planned. But if God leads you to that, and I actually heard a pretty cool quote in one of my classes on Sunday, and it talked about how when you're preparing for a sermon for pastors, like, you're supposed to let that sermon convict you first. Like, you have to be the first person it convicts. And say you've been working on your sermon and you've got convicted from it already, and it's coming up on Sunday, and then this tragedy happens in between that. It's like, okay, let me address this tragedy first, and then on Sunday I'll continue. But maybe I might say a little expert, maybe I might not. But I think as a body of believers, we go there, obviously to pray, worship, and to give thanks, to do praise reports, and to ask for prayer requests. It's like, these are the things that we're going to do at the church anyway. So going in there and expecting, oh, pastor didn't talk about this because my emotions need to be addressed, my feeling, then you start to get into that realm where you're gonna get church hurt. But church hurt, the foundation of church hurt is really me, 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 me.
Yeah.
What can the church do for me versus, hey, how can I serve? How can I help those who are actually hurting from this situation? How can I volunteer this week? Who, needs to, like, yeah, if you have a different approach to how you go to church, then yeah, your approach is going to be whatever the spirit leads you to say. Not, you're not going to be upset at the pastor who's been preparing his message, was convicted by his message,
Well,
to all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's somebody you
because
should be offended about. But again, a good pastor, good shepherd will know their sheep and will know how to address them.
well, and like you're saying too, and I just want to build on it just a little bit. There is that um, we have to be careful feeling like it's our place to say what needs to happen in the pulpit, right?
Mm,
Like,
mhm.
if now obviously there are some pastors that aren't doing this. There's some not great pastors, and there's some really good ones, and we can't paint with these big brushstrokes and overlook the really good ones that are doing this the right way, right? But I mean, a really good pastor is supposed to be tapped in. And it's not even about like, oh, well, I want to talk about XYZ. It's what is the message that God is wanting me to give to these people. And
Hmm.
how are we going to tell them, well, I don't care that that's what God wants you to tell us right now. We want to hear something else.
Right. I want to hear this message though, Pastor. Thank you, but I wanted to hear that, and I think that that's quite. It's a crazy thought as a Christian to come in with that kind of mentality, and that kind of leaves you with church hurt. And I honestly, and I see a lot of people that experience these things, and I'm like, man, when you scratch the surface of church hurt, you just go right into that me thought process. So as a Christian, as a believer, if you're reading your Bible, like if you're locked in on your Bible, when you go to church, like you'll have a whole different view of the church. Like
Well,
you will be like, man, okay, these are the hands and feet. Like we need to just get ourselves involved. How do we create more disciples? How do we, prepare to disciple, prepare to go out and actually be effective and, and helping, working with God to, get people back to this kingdom. And so having that mentality as a believer will help you avoid those emotions, because if you're just going to church to to have your emotions kind of catered to, it's like, oh yeah, I want to feel nice, like that's not really what it was meant for in the
well,
first place. So you already have a different expectation of the church.
and I would challenge people to be like, yo, I don't know that Charlie himself would feel this way. I don't think Charlie would be offended if a pastor gave the message that God wanted them to give that day. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like I think he would be like, that's exactly what they need to do. Because I've seen a lot of stuff of people who, I mean, I can't say I've followed Charlie Kirk for the last decade, but I have
Yeah.
followed Charlie and Turning Point for at least the last like 3 years pretty
Mm,
closely. Like, I
right.
mean, on election night, his coverage was what I was tuned into, right?
Hmm.
And while I appreciate, obviously, his boldness when it came to his faith, I didn't check out his content looking for religious content. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think for me, he challenged me to really consider and make sure I had a clear understanding of where I was from a political standpoint. And so, watching all these people post all this stuff that I had never seen them talk or share anything that had to do with Charlie before this, all of a sudden, like a week and a half, become like Charlie Kirk experts, apparently. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it causes me to pause a little bit. Like there might be a little bit of a warning flag there to kind of check out, right?
Mm,
Like,
it's giving grift. It's giving profiteering. But did you see those pastors that are, literally doing the opposite? They're on pulpit like but bashing him. Like it was mostly some pastors in Atlanta and a lot of the black areas. They're calling them a racist for some of the out of context quotes.
I'll
And
it,
I love those out of context quotes, because man, like if that's all you read of somebody would be, you could literally describe anyone as the worst person ever if you just take one
that's
sentence
it right
and
there,
then
dude.
go
Like,
off
I
of
mean,
it.
not that I'm gonna call out Amen, but I'll give you this example, right? I told you we had a lot of conversations that next day in my classroom, right? And one of
Mhm.
those conversations, I had a young lady who was like, "Well, I didn't agree with like anything he said," and I said, "Hey, pause." I was like, "I don't want you to actually answer this, but I want you to think about it."
Mhm.
My question would be, if I asked you specifically to give me an example of something that you didn't agree with, would you be able to do it or not? I said, don't answer it. I don't expect an answer, but I just want
Right.
you to think about that, because that's what happens is people go off of the headlines and the clickbait and, like you said, these little clips that people cut up in a very specific way,
Right.
but you've not actually spent time to check out fully the message that he had. And here's the thing, I can't sit here and say that I 100% agree with every single thing Charlie Kirk ever said, right? I don't think that there's anyone that I can say that about, though, right? Like, I
0.
think I think that the majority of stuff that he said, I was on par with. And honestly, a lot of the stuff that like maybe I would question a little bit, it wasn't even necessarily about the meaning or the the substance of what he was saying. It was maybe like, okay, the delivery of it or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, that I was just like, well, I don't know if that is how I would necessarily want to say that thing,
Mm.
but I also wouldn't say that he was necessarily wrong. And I think that especially for people within Christian culture that are saying these kind of things like what you're talking about, it makes me stop for a second and wonder, okay, how much investing into this have, or how much time have you put into actually hearing what this man had to say?
Right.
And if it's just little 20-second snippets on your reels, then it's best to not say anything at all, man, because you are not knowledgeable enough to be making those comments in the first place.
I don't even take those. I don't even watch those. You know how you see like you scroll through Twitter or whatever, and Twitter's low-key turning into TikTok. It's turning into
Yeah.
Instagram because more every year it's like more and more videos and videos and videos. I'm like, man, TikTok used to be like, I'm reading. I want to read these things because when you have to write what you mean, you take a little bit more time. You start to, you have to try to explain it, fit into all these characters. But now that there's video, it's like you can say anything real quick and it just catches a lot of attention, but you said nothing. And so I'm seeing a lot of these like, clickbait. I'm like, man, skip, skip, skip. Like, I don't even want to. I know this person did almost zero research into what they're talking about. You're like, this guy's racist because he said something about slavery. Oh, like if he
And and
talk
and
about slavery, you're racist.
I'm going. I watched that entire 20-minute
Yeah.
conversation that he had with that person. That's, the the
Bro,
the
what?
people you were trying to frame this in is not accurate, right?
Like
So
some of the conversations, like just with me and my friends, like all like when I go home in Charlotte, like it's all black guys, you know what I mean? Like some of the conversations we've had, we would sound racist if somebody quoted that, be like, oh, they talked about slavery this way, racist. Like it doesn't even make sense. Like you just want to label somebody. And I think it comes down to how much they just dislike you. And I think that's
right,
100% because of the gospel. Because if you wasn't Christian, they don't dislike a lot of non-Christians. It's mostly because you're Christian. You're going to stand on foundations that go against the world values. The not no values really essentially is what we see from the world. But those people are not serious. Like, you can't take those people seriously. Like, I see a lot of Christians, really putting in the effort to try to educate these people on Twitter, like, putting some research, like, man, getting like all these paragraphs. I'm like, you are wasting your time. That person didn't even want to spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes to actually watch the entire explanation. And then maybe they would have been like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about it that way. It's like that person wasted no time. They took 10-second clip and then they decided to give you some rage words in the video and you've been triggered. I'm like, don't even be triggered by that. Don't even pay attention to it. Who
well, and
that
dude,
person's not active. Yeah, they're not serious.
and again, Christians, let's make sure that we're not falling into the same thing, but on the opposite side of the
Right.
argument, right? Like, let's make sure. Okay, yeah, you want to honor Charlie Kirk, fine. Make sure you understand what some of his responses to some of this stuff would be, and make sure you're honoring him by having a similar response, right? Uh,
Mm,
don't like I think one thing that Charlie would not want is to be put up on some pedestal. I
right.
truly do. Um, because he never wanted to make it about himself, you know. I don't know, that's my 2 cents, man. I don't know. Like, here's the at the end of the day, I know we are far from um over with as far as like processing and just this whole, you know, time of mourning, and there's going to be a lot more fallout from this event. Like I
Hmm.
said, I think this goes down as one of those pivotal moments, not just from a church perspective, but from um uh, for America as a nation. I think in the end of the day, history is going to play out in this way where we see that it was right there with MLK. I truly do.
If you put on one of those tinfoil hats,
Yeah.
EB, okay, but I'm talking about the
I
Christian.
ordered a new one, so it's not good yet. But.
If you put on one of those Christian tinfoil hats, I think this might be one of those. I don't know if you are a history nerd, but you are a teacher, so you might be. But do
I
you
do have a
remember?
history degree.
Do you? Oh, nice. So you must know this. You're gonna know this
Well,
answer.
we'll see. I don't know.
You're gonna know the answer to
You
this.
put me on the spot.
Do you remember one of the events that led to the First World War? There's an event that's in our history books that it's used in U.S. history, but there's one event that triggered the First World War. It was a murder. I'll give you a clue. It was a murder.
Ferdinand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The murder of Archduke Ferdinand, somewhere in like Austria, I think.
Yeah,
I remember it's that area, and it triggered this war. Well, according to our history books, and we know
I
our
was
history
trying to
books.
make sure I knew where you were going with that.
Yeah, but our history books is written in an interesting way. But that is the event they put in there, thinking, yeah, this is definitely. But we all know, like I majored in finance, and I know it wasn't Archduke Ferdinand that triggered this world war. But that's the event that triggered that. So if you have on your Christian tinfoil hat, EB, this event could be triggering something. Okay, like if you go back and take this like big bird eye view perspective, this could trigger the next something. I don't know what it is. Again,
here's my thing on that. Here's my thing on that is that it could be, but it's not our place to try to figure out if that's the case or not. Right? That's not what we're called to. And in fact, we're told we're not going to know it. We're not going to figure it out. We're not going to outsmart God on this stuff.
Right, and I didn't mean it, in that way. I meant to like we're gonna start seeing like these blatant acts of like against Christians.
It could be. It could also not be. You know what I'm saying? And I think you bringing that question up is fair because it kind of gives a warning to us within the culture of what we allow ourselves to be wrapped up in. Because guess what? The enemy would love for us to be wrapped up in that thinking and being concerned about that to keep us from the purpose and the job that we're supposed to be doing instead. So let's just think about that, man. I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure that more stuff is going to develop that we feel like we need to address on future episodes of the show. Like I said, the fallout is far, far from over of this, but
just mark that event there. Mark that event in your history book.
But hey, I'm glad we were able to hop on here tonight. I'm glad you were able to join, man. Like Swiss was supposed to be here, but he's got backhoes that are tipping over and all kinds of craziness. So we get it. I mean, we're only a little salty about it, Swiss. It's fine.
Tighten up, Swiss. Tighten up. Yeah, we gotta lift him up. We gotta lift him up. He's going through it. Right. I know what that's like.
So shout out to Swiss. Shout out to our guy KD. We're gonna be excited.
Yeah, big shout out to KD. Where's KD at, bro?
KD had some work stuff that he knew was gonna kind of keep him.
KD, I need them R&B, baby. We bring them R&B lights back.
I need to give a shout out, see if he knows when stuff's kind of wrapping up, when he's gonna free up again soon here. But we're gonna look forward to both of them being back on real soon, man.
Big shout out to Jay's LA.
Yeah, man. Hey, if you haven't checked them out, man, go over on YouTube and check out That's Not Christian. Those are fellas that have rocked with us for a long, long time, and we appreciate them for sure, man. And of course, check out Frenchie's channel. Frenchie, plug it. Tell them what's going on with it.
Hey, listen, Locked In Christians every Friday live 8:30. We're bringing in. We got new guests coming up this Friday, so it's super exciting. Hey, Eric, your man's Eric was on an episode. We're gonna definitely need him back for a part 2. So go and check that out. It's on the channel as well. Super exciting stuff. I mean, I guess there's not enough news for us to like cover everything. It's almost impossible. We need more Christians online, Eric. Okay, there's so much news and not enough of us. I think
Well,
there's a quote in there. There's a biblical quote in there somewhere. The harvest is plenty.
yeah.
The
Sure.
workers,
For
the
sure. Well,
workers
yeah,
are few.
we're gonna try to
Amen.
have as many conversations here as we can. So make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you subscribe to Locked In Christians
Lock in.
so you get those conversations, man.
Amen.
And as always, we're gonna be looking forward to the next time. Hopefully that's next. Well, hopefully it's next week. I need to check the schedule. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know next week's a 5-day week for us at school.
Wait, what's the holiday?
No. So
Oh, teacher workday?
well, no, we got a 5-day week because the following week is like a 3-day week or something like that because we have like parent teacher conferences and stuff. I don't know. The schedule's weird.
Yeah,
To
I used to
adjust
love
for.
those teacher work days,
Yeah.
boy.
Well, hey, when we get through it, man, we're gonna end up with like a 4-day weekend at the end of it all. So we just gotta get through it. But yeah,
Ooh,
so we'll see how that
nice.
goes. But hopefully we'll be back here next week, man, and hopefully with Swiss, and we'd love for KD to be back on. Like I said, I need to touch base with him this week and see where we're at because we definitely miss Big KD. But Frenchie, as always, man, appreciate you being on here and hanging out, man, and being part of the conversation. Appreciate everyone that's been hanging out in the
Yes,
chat.
sir.
Shout out to Kyle Manning and the DJ
Yeah,
Lost
what's up, Kyle? Come on, Kyle.
no shows
You
tonight.
gotta tighten up.
It's okay, man. We love you anyway. So, and people that have been hanging out that didn't leave anything in the comments, man, we appreciate you as well. Make sure you share stuff with people. If you're watching after the fact, give us some comments about what you think. How has going through this event with the murder of Charlie Kirk affected you, and what kind of thoughts have you had on that? And how do you see the Christian culture kind of adjusting and going through that as well, man?
For
We love
sure.
your thoughts. So you already know what it is, man. It is 520 IXC for the entire crew of 520 Collective Indie Christian culture right here, man. Until next time, let's
Read your
go.